Thank you so much, Felicia. And I'd also like to welcome Anita in our class today. She will be in the Q&A answering your questions, and those that pop up live, I will answer those as well. So welcome, everyone. We have a very full class today. So I'm just going to go ahead and jump right into our projects and get going. I think I have about 5 projects set aside to show you and walk you through some of the intricacies of gifting from your kitchen or gifting to the person who loves to cook in their kitchen. So why don't I go ahead, I'm going to open up my design space and I'll share it on the screen with you. The first project I want to share with you is a really easy, simple project and a way that you could embellish your, I'm going to just start with my project here, and we will share a link to this project in the chat for everybody. But this is like a really easy project that you can do to embellish a pot holder. I took 2 different fonts here and merged them together. Now, when I say merge them together, I made a saying or a design to go on my a pot holder. And I just want to show you, when you're creating a design, it's always fun to find text that mixes and matches really well with each other. So the first thing I do is I'll go into our font selection and I'll find like a nice chunky font. So maybe like this birthday party font is a good chunky font. And then I will blend that in with something that is more of like a lighter font, more of a cursive style font if I'm doing multiple layers of the font. So I might just come in and maybe take this one's called Coffee Shop. My first one was Birthday Party. And so this is a nice, more cursive font, script font, if you will. And I'll just put that on my canvas so you can see when you change up your font, you get a totally different look than if you had kept it all of the same style of font. So don't be afraid to kind of mix up your fonts and, choose 2 different ones that are complementary. And there's really no right or wrong answer. I think you just kind of have to play with it. One of my sort of go-tos is if I'm doing a font that has very hard lines on it, like this chunky font, then I do look for a more soft complementary font like this one here. So just keep those in mind. And then as you build up your design, you can change the colors of those layers by selecting a layer, going up to the panel, the edit panel at top, and you can just change those colors to your vinyl color, or if you're in the designing stage, you want to see, do those 2 colors work together? Great. I like that combination. Or, I'm putting it on maybe you're putting it on a green apron, so you'll go red and white or something like that. Or you're doing a gray apron or pot holder, and maybe you'll just want to go with a blue and a silver color. So you can use this little box up here to play around with your colors. Now, if you decide when you send it to your machine, you're like, you know what, I really don't want it to be blue, I want it to be white, that is perfectly okay, because the machine, your cutting machine, does not know what color vinyl is going in to the machine itself. So like with this baking spirits, I have, it's green, but my pot holder is white. So I'm actually going to cut it out of white vinyl. Iron-on material. So let me go ahead and show you, once you've got your design made, we're going to go to the Make It screen. And one thing I want to show you too, one is a very important if you're new to using your Cricut or using iron-on material. Whenever you use iron-on material, you want to use this mirror icon. So you flip that little mirror switch and it flips your image and it mirrors your image from what it started off with. So let me show you, when we came into the prepare screen, the baking spirits bright, you could read it and everything. When you click on the mirror button there, that little toggle switch, it mirrors your image. And this is important because you actually cut on the back side of your material. So you're going to be flipping it over when you apply it down. So the other trick I want to show you, if you're doing something, if you're doing, like, let's say you want to do multiples of a hot pad, you're doing multiples of it for, you know, maybe you're giving out cookies at the holidays and you want to give everybody like a little hot pad to go with it. Right up here where it says project copies, if you want to make more than one copy of your project, so maybe you're making 2, you go ahead and select how many copies you're making and you apply that to your canvas. And now the Baking Spirits Bright, you'll cut 2 of those. Again, you want to make sure it's mirrored, and then we can just cut our 2 Baking Spirits Bright at the same time. Then when you go ahead and do continue, and yes, Maybell is asking a great question. Can beginners do this? Absolutely. Cricut has, I'm going to come back to that question. I'm using everyday iron-on, so I select my material, and then it just tells me to have my fine point blade in and then to load it into my machine. So I'm going to go ahead and load that into my machine, and we'll switch over to my overhead camera. But for that question about, like, is this a good project for beginners? Absolutely. And here's why. Cricut Design Space has over 200,000 different images in there. So while I showed you how you can take some, you could take some, a font and do your own design, you can also find a design that's already done. And I'll show you that when we go back to the computer. Now, you'll notice this is my iron-on material. It has a matte side and it has a shiny side. The matte side is actually the material, and the shiny is shiny because there's a carrier sheet that holds the material. So when you cut it and weed it, that shiny material, that carrier sheet, is left over. So I put the shiny side down on my mat, and I'm using just the standard grit mat. I'm going to go ahead and load that in, and we'll let that start cutting. And then we'll talk about how to apply your design to your pot holder. My pot holders, you can get your pot holders anywhere. So you can, anywhere you shop, I would say go ahead and do that. You can, find your pot holders anywhere. So Joan, that's a good question. How do the iron-on handle the heat when using the hot pad? So, your hot pad has 2 sides to it. And I know somebody in your house will probably pick it up and put the side that you did your design on and pull something out. I would think it would do okay because, well, first of all, none of mine have ever gotten damaged, and I don't know if someone's picked it out of the oven one way or the other. But when you heat it at like 330 degrees. So, if you're pulling out a pot, it should be okay. But usually you would use the back side of your pot holder to pull it out. So just maybe, I don't know if that answers your question or not. Now, my pot holder has this quilted design in it. So it has these quilting lines. So the first time I did this, you can learn from my mistakes. The first time I did it, I used my easy press, and I had a really hard time getting the vinyl to stay in the lines, no matter how much pressure I put on it. So I cut another one, and this is my second one. I'm going to show, we'll pull this off and get the results. But what I did was I used my mini press to do it. And the reason I did that was so that I could really get into each and every crevice of my pot holder. So what we're going to do, and I'm just going to let this keep cutting as we're going through, so you guys can see all the steps, but I have a lot to cover today, so I want to make sure I get to it all. This is my mini press, and I've got it on the third, the highest setting here. And what I do is I'm going to start in the middle and work my way out to the sides. Now, usually I really only like to use my mini press when I'm doing something small that fits under the mini press, because it's a press. So you really want to give your material the press, like I'm putting a lot of pressure here on it, and you want to give it the press and then pick it up and move it over. And I see so many people, and we slide the mini press. I do the same thing. And actually in this one, we have to, because we're going to slide it along each of those quilted lines and and make sure we get that to go in. So I'm holding it about 10 seconds on each spot just to kind of get my positioning ready. And then I'm just going to kind of come over to the other side and do the same thing here. Okay, so I'm just pushing this around. Now I saw a great question. Do we need to learn how to sew? Everything I'm making today is not something I've sewn. So like my pot holders are store-bought, my aprons store-bought, everything, all my blanks, if you will, are store-bought. Okay, so now that's just a quick press. You could also do that with a larger easy press if you wanted to, but there's just so much bulk in here that you need to then use the edge. I'll use the edge of my mini press and really crease in on each of these lines to make sure that I get that pressed along the lines and get my material to adhere down. And something like this, you're going to go over it a number of times and really dig into each and every crevice as you can, because you really want to make sure that the whole design irons down. So we're just going to keep going back and forth over all the different lines. Now I have already done this on the finished one I have here. So I'm going to go ahead and show you. We're going to peel that off and I'll show you how the finished design looks. Do you place the shiny side up or down? So once you've cut it, as you can see, you cut in the back of the material, so then you place it right side up. So the shiny is the carrier sheet, and that is up on my project, but the shiny side is down on your cutting mat. So when he's saying, if it is a fairly flat pot holder, can you use one of the bigger presses? If you don't have like the quilted lines in it, like this one does, absolutely. It's not the thickness of the pot holder that I found was a problem. It was the quilted lines because they had such a hump in between. That's why I went to my mini press and I was like, oh, that's perfect. And if you're using a regular iron, you always want to have it on the highest setting. So like a cotton and linen, and have it on that highest setting. And you could use your home iron if you didn't, not instead of a mini press, you could use your home iron, and that sharp edge on your home iron would do a really good job too. Why don't I use oven paper? I'm not sure what you mean by oven paper. I don't know what oven paper is. All right, so I would just keep going over this, and when I finish the class, I will come back and I'll keep pushing over it. But I wanted to show you guys how that works out. So once I've got it all pressed in, I did this one before, and I'm just going to walk off my paper. Now, if any spot didn't stick, so like I noticed right there, it didn't quite catch in, I would come back with my easy press and just give that a nice little press again and get that to stay down. And if I did that, I would probably, I don't think I would do it right on the material, although I might be tempted to. I'd probably use my, I'll use my Teflon sheet in between so that I don't damage anything, get it too hot. So once I've got it like that, so that little one right here, my K, didn't quite stick in. So Anita, would you put a Teflon sheet in between there, or would you just go ahead with your mini press and touch that back down?
You don't want to touch the vinyl with the mini press. What I would have done, I would have left that iron-on carrier sheet and just put it back down and then hit the spots that did not.
Okay, so let me just do that again. So I'll show everybody how to do that. Anita is my my guru. Sometimes, like if I don't know something, she knows it. She knows way more than I do. Here we go. So I'm just going to hit that back with my easy press, and then my mini press, and then I'll let that cool before I peel this off. But then I just would move around the whole thing. Now, if you had a pot holder that was a flatter, like didn't have the quilting, then you wouldn't have to worry about it. So now that's just going to stay right in there. And I'll go back and hit the other little spots that didn't hold it in those seams, and I will be good to go. This is ready to gift. A Teflon sheet is, this is my Teflon sheet here. I might use this again, but it basically is a sheet that I use between my heat press and my items if I'm using multiple layers and I have to do a lot of layers. So that's how you do a, what is this called? That's how you do a hot pad, an oven mitt or hot pad. And I would look for ones that maybe didn't have the quilting on it. If you can find a basic one, that would be great. So that you could totally do that. Now, let me move on. And the next project I have is, this is a fun one. I got to find out where to put my bin. I'll put it behind me here. Our next project is, oh, let me just show you guys too, before I completely clear my work table here. This is, so now I take that iron-on material off of my cutting mat and I slide that back under. And then to remove my carrier sheet, and to weed it, you just take your little weeding tool and you push under a little corner of the iron-on material and you begin to pull back and reveal your cuts. So as you pull back, you can start seeing where it cut in. So, and then you just keep moving it back and it does tear. So you do want to be careful that you're not tearing your, like ripping your letters as you're going through. So you just use your little weeding tool and get under there. And then you can see how your design looks. So by placing your material down with that carrier sheet down and cutting in the back of the sheet, when I turn this over to apply it to a pot holder or an apron, then it's right side up. So that is why you have to mirror your design when you do it. Now, for the rest of our projects today, I have gone ahead and prepped those up. So we're doing a little bit more crafting than cutting. So this first one, Anita will share the projects in Design Space with you all, so that you can see, like if you want to make the project yourself, I've got the projects all made and sized and everything. So you can go in and make it and cut it if you want to. This one is a towel. So this is a great big towel and it's terry cloth on one side and it was smooth on the other side. So I picked the smooth side and I went ahead and put down some green trees. And this is just heat pressed with green vinyl and it's a cool peel. So you could walk away and leave it overnight to cool, however long you want. I did this overnight and it's a cool peel. So I peeled it off and you don't have to wait overnight. Don't think how long you have. It's like you can just peel it, right? Like let it cool for about 10 minutes and then just peel it off. Oh, Susie asking a great question. How do you feel about doing weeding boxes around each project? Does it really make a difference? Susie, I'm so glad you asked that question because yes, it does. And I have a project, which now you just guaranteed we're going to do that project. So I'll show you, it does make a difference. Okay, so check out this design. This is going to make our tree look like plaid. And plaids are really in. If you guys are watching your styles, plaids are super in. So to do the layering, I put my green iron-on material down and I press that down. So then I'll do my second press and I'll line up my design over the trees. And I want to make sure that once I get it placed in the position I don't want it to move. So what I do in a situation like that, because sometimes like when you pick up your heat press or put a heat press on top of it, it shouldn't slide, but sometimes, just when you don't want it to slide, it will slide. So I have a roll of heat tape, and this is tape that won't leave a mark on your fabric or anything, and it's intended to be okay to be heated up. So I'm just going to use that heat tape and position that in place. Now I've got my easy press, my 10 by 12 easy press is heating up. It's got, oh, there you go. It's all ready. So I'm just going to bring that over and we're going to press this down. So I had everything already cut and weeded out, but I just have to tell you, I love, love, love these trees. I thought it would be a big pain to to weed those, I was like, oh my gosh, that's gonna take me forever to weed it. It took like 10 minutes. You do have like some little lines in there that you have to get to, but it took like 10 minutes. So it's so cute. Okay, so easy press down. And go ahead and hit the start button. It's 330 degrees for 30 seconds. And I am applying firm pressure. And the reason I'm doing that is because this towel has a little bit of thickness to it. So I really want to make sure that I get that firm pressure put down and it will apply. So we'll just do a little bit of firm pressure. Something like this, if you have a press, like an auto press, it's great in the auto press too. Okay, so we'll just do that. And then we flip it over and we give it another 10 seconds. Now, the easy press pad I have underneath here. If you don't have an easy press pad, you can put like a towel down, like a terry cloth towel down. You can put that down and press on that. I don't really recommend pressing on your iron because your iron board has vents in the bottom of it and it's not as sturdy. You can't necessarily get all the like heavy pressure you need to get on it. Okay, I'm going to set this one aside. I'll put it over here on the left. I'm going to set that one aside to cool. But you guys, look how cute is that? Home for the holidays, it says. Okay, now while that one is cooling, let me show you another one. So I used the black Smart Iron-On and the green Smart Iron-On for this design here. For the next design, oh, I'm so excited. Let me find, where'd it go? Oh, there it is. Okay, for my next design, this time I was like, well, what if I didn't want to have to, I have to cut out, like weed all those little plaid lines. So I used one of our Cricut's patterned iron-on material. And this, I loved the design on this. It was perfect. So this is an iron-on material. Again, I mirrored my image when I cut it. And that's the iron-on material. And this is my, this is the pattern iron-on. And this is, excuse me, this is just regular iron-on. And I'm just going to show you, I'm weeding out the centers because I will place this on top of each other as I'm doing it. Now, I do want to check my settings. So I'm going to show you guys, like if you haven't used Cricut's heat guide, there's a heat guide online or the heat guide app that will tell you exactly the settings you should use on your garment or whatever. So let me share my screen again and I'll go into, let's see. Actually, you know what? I have my phone on me. Let's do it on my phone if we could. So I go over here and I go to the Cricut heat guide. Turn that down. So we'll go to the Cricut heat guide and open that up. And first I'm going to put my pattern paper down and then I'll do my outline. So I picked my machine I'm using. It's the Easy Press 3. If you don't have a machine like this, you can still go online. So I just picked the pattern iron-on and get the same information. So pattern iron-on 100% cotton using the Cricut heating pressing mat, 340 degrees. I'll send those settings to my machine and my machine will tell me, okay, it's at 330, so it's going to heat up. And then while that's heating up, let me get my towel. So this has a cute little hook on it. So that'll go at the top. And I'll bring over my machine, my towel here. And I just have to heat it up for 5 seconds. Now I like to fold it in the middle. I do this with t-shirts too. I fold it in the middle like that and I get my center line. And then we're just going to go press that down for 5 seconds. So I'm going to press that down and look at how my heat guide goes down. Now, the Easy Press 3s do connect with Bluetooth. So if you're using an Easy Press, it won't do like a regular Easy Press. It won't do the countdown for you, but you can get your settings and everything. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is line up my little trees here. So I've got my center line, and I know I want to go about 2 inches from the bottom or so. So I'll take a really nice thick ruler and I'll put that down there. So put that in the middle. And then I'll take my design here. So I'll get an idea of where my trees need to be. So we'll just push those down a bit, because you would forget if you just put your trees 2 inches from the bottom, you'd forget about your saying. So I want to put my trees so that I have enough room to put my outline with my saying on it. Okay, so now that is down like that on my pad and everything. We're going to go ahead and press this. So I just bring this over and I press it. And again, you'll see it says apply firm pressure for 30 seconds. And here we go. So you can really use all different kinds of material on making little kitchen towels. These would be great if you do like morning muffins during the holidays, or donuts, or anything home cooked. These nice big towels can go right in a dish and be folded over. I think I got all my stuff at my local store. Now I'm just gonna put that there and turn it over for 15 seconds. And then I have to let it cool before I do my, before I do my next layer. I have to let it cool. So I can show you, we'll peel this one off while this one's cooling. I'm a little curious. I usually do my pattern you can put pattern on, pattern vinyl on, what am I thinking? You can put pattern vinyl on wood. You can iron it on wood. It's so cute. Which Cricut material should not be layered? You can layer up to 3 different Cricut materials. I do have, our next project is.
I was going to say, Kesley, can I pipe in on that?
Yes, please do.
You never want to go on top of metallic. You never want to layer on top of the glitter. Or if you're using Sports Flex, you have to layer with Sports Flex. You cannot switch from Everyday to Sports Flex.
Yes, Sports Flex with Sports Flex. Okay, look at that. Is that not adorable? So what I was going to say to Anita is, to Anita's point, my next project is actually, I'm using glitter iron-on, and our Everyday iron-on, and the glitter is my top layer. So it's cooled, and now I'm going to peel it off. Now I hold my material down as I remove my sheet, and you just kind of walk it off. Now you really do want to give your patterned paper a little extra time to cool. I'm rushing it a bit because we're, live, but I usually will, do this and then walk away, go start dinner, go watch a show, and then I'll come back. And the reason is, the pattern material I find is a little bit thinner than other vinyl. So if you pull it up too soon, it will wrinkle, and it's not as forgiving on a repress as other Cricut vinyl is. So I usually will just really let it cool before doing anything. Now here's my other Home for the Holidays. And I just line that right up. And the other great thing is with lining something up, once you get one part of it lined up, then you can move around and get the next bits of it lined up. Sometimes your material might stretch a little bit, so you just have to be a little wiggly with it. Let's come in at the bottom.
It's Felicia.
Yeah.
I just wanted to share one of my little quick hacks. When you have material that needs to be cooled off or cool peel, is actually just picking up your project and fanning it to help it cool down faster.
Yes.
Or a cooling block.
Well, so what do you use as a cooling block?
You actually, if you wanted to, if you just happen to have fill a Ziploc bag with water and let it become its own block, you could do that.
Interesting. I have used a tub of butter in a pinch, and I know somebody else. I got the idea because a friend used. She used a tub of Philadelphia cream cheese.
So another idea on that too, to quickly cool the iron-on off, you can just put it onto your countertop. And the Formica or the marble, any of those suck the heat right out.
Yes, good point. Because that Easy Press pad really does hold a lot of heat to it. So if you just left it here, that's why I kind of move it off. It'll retain your heat. So you want to let it cool from this aside from where you did your heating. All right, so I'm going to set this one aside, and then I'll grab my third project here, which are our aprons. Now, the aprons I got had an adult size and a small size, which I thought, oh, I don't have any small kids, I won't do that one, but you got it. It's so cute. This is the little apron package I got. It's a 2-piece adult and kids set. So if you have like your cookie crew coming over to cook with you, you want to go ahead and make some kids aprons, of course. So here we are, this little kid one, so cute. I now have to invite some neighbor kids over to cook with me to bake some cookies. Now I could put it on the pocket, but I wanted to put it up here. So when I took pictures, I get the design in the picture with a child if I had a kid over to cook with me. So I'm just going to give it a 5-second press to get it flat. And I just keep my eye on my timer. And this is the one I'm going to be doing 2 different cut layers. So my first layer is an everyday vinyl, and I've gone ahead and weeded it and everything. So I'm just going to find the center of my design here. I just line up my edge, and then I crease at the center of my design. And I didn't do my trick, did I, guys? Let me go ahead and put this like this and give it a quick press and find that center line right there. That having your center, knowing where your center is just really easy. It makes it so much easier when you're designing. Now, remember that this will go on a child. So I'm not too worried. Like a shirt, I would worry about the distance from the neck collar. But on this, I'm not really too worried. I did my measurement in the half mark up this curve part here. So I'm about halfway up. And my middle line, where's my middle line? It's this red line right here. So I'm going to take my cookie crew and I'll line that right up on the center. I'm down just a hair, just like that. Okay, so we'll press that down for 30 seconds. Now I am conscientious of this corner here because there's a little dip there. So I might do half of it and then move over and do the other half. Let's get a feel for how that looks. So if I come in, oh, maybe I can go in like an angle like that. Okay, so let's do our time for 30 seconds at 330. Now, when I do my first layer of vinyl, I don't always worry that everything is stuck down because my second layer, I'm going to reheat it. Oops. I'll be reheating my vinyl. So I'm not too worried about that. And since I had that on there for a second, I'm going to come in at the other angle, make sure I get that. Okay. So, and we're going to have to let this one cool. And then my adult apron has a little bit more of an adult saying, which I think is kind of fun. It could be a little scandalous, but I thought it was fun. So I hope I don't offend anybody, but here we go. So in my adult apron, it's red. The front of it is red. So I just did one color of iron-on material for this one. So I just did a single color on this one, and I'll do my little half press here, find my middle of my design. And while I've got my this guy over here is cooling. So put that down there. And when you use your press, don't worry if your color on your garment changes a little darker. That's just the heat from the iron working, and it changes the color a little bit, but don't fret about that. Okay, so I made this a little bit big because my apron's a little big, but it says, and this is from one of the Cricut artists in Design Space. They have so many fun things. I put the hoe in the holiday. Okay, so I just put that down. This is glitter and it's a single layer. So I would go to my app, Where's my phone? I'm gonna go to my app and I'll find my temperature settings. If I'm using, my material is Smart Iron-On Glitter, and I'm putting it on 100% cotton. And let's see what my settings are. So it's 330 degrees again. So we'll just set that over 330 degrees. I've already done my press, so I can skip that. And now we're just gonna do this part. I put that down, firm pressure on it. Oh, and this is nice and cooling. And then we can tear that up. Oh, you guys, this is so fun. It puts me in the holiday spirit. I've got Christmas music going. And we're ready for, I know I've got some Thanksgiving projects in the works. All these project ideas you can do with a Thanksgiving theme if you wanted to. Maybe you cook your cookies during Thanksgiving, so you can always put these out then. I have some Thanksgiving shirts that you can do. So this one, I'm going to let this dry. I missed a spot right there. Now for a little spot like that, I could just go in with my mini press and make sure I hit that little spot there. And let's just, yep, okay, we're good. Yeah, all right, so I'll just need to let that cool down. So I'll set that one aside, let that one cool now. We'll come back to the cookie crew. And I'm going to take this one off so it's cooled down. And we're just going to peel this one right off. Again, just hold your material down and peel off at a corner. And I work at like that 45-degree angle and kind of just walk my carrier sheet off of my design. And I hold it down as I go so that I don't get any stretch in my iron-on material. Okay, now here's the fun part. So there's my offset layer. That was the offset layer to my design. And here is the actual design now. So adding that little layer of red behind it really helped my design show up on my apron here. Because if I just had put the white on, it might have been a little hard to see it. So on this design, I did an offset layer using the offset feature in Design Space. And then I did, now let's see, I'm gonna go for 30 seconds on this. Oops, time. I should change my time before I get on here. Let's just do that. Okay, so I'm gonna just do 20 seconds on here. Now, what was I saying? Oh, so I did the offset feature in Design Space to get the red background on my design. And actually, this one may have come out with that design already. So fun. Okay. Again, just want to make sure I get all my little corners and everything. Just come back in. Little press. Little press. Little press where you need to. And then flip it over. And you're going to do that for your last 10 seconds there. I flipped my pad over so I had a cooler surface to work on. So we're just going to flip that over and do that for 10 seconds. And you can just keep using the same settings in your phone if you're using the same material. You can just do that over and over again. There we go. So that's a really good question, Kathy. Is there a little bit of adhesive to the iron-on material? The iron-on material itself, I'm going to set this aside so it can cool. And I've got my apron is cooling, the mom apron is cooling, or the dad apron. Well, let's peel this one off. Your carrier sheet has a little bit of adhesive to it, Kathy. So when you put it down, it does sort of stick to your blank material, your t-shirt or your towel or whatever you're putting it on. It does adhere to that. It sticks. The reason I used, I'm going to go at a little bit bigger area here. The reason I used my tape on that one design was because I really wanted to make sure it did not move out of the way. It didn't wiggle on me when I moved my press, which it did not. So here we go. Now this is just coming off a little bit. So I'm just going to hit this again and give it one last press for assurance because it's a little bit of a texture material. So I'm just going to give that a little bit of a press for assurance on my letters. I don't want those to come off in the wash. So if you're ever concerned, like, oh, it didn't stick down, I'm not sure that that worked, you can, like Anita said, use your carrier sheet and go back over it, or you can use your Teflon sheet. I lost my Teflon sheet. I've lost my Teflon sheet. Okay, well, I'll find my Teflon sheet and I would just do another little press on the bottom letters there because they're just a little bit sticking up there. So we're going to press those one more time. I don't know what I did with my Teflon sheet. Okay, so while that's set aside, let's pull this one off. And this is great too, because if you ever were to do like a craft show or something for the holidays, you could have 1 or 2 aprons made up. And then if you had time, you could make up additional aprons right at the show. You could customize them. So you could customize it with somebody's name or something on there if you wanted to. So this is the white glitter iron-on. And then this is the little one with the red background, which was everyday iron-on. And then the white glitter iron-on top of that. And it really does, I know we're also anxious. It really does make a difference to let it cool when you read it. So how fun is that? We're ready. I need some good cookie recipes. So if anybody has, if you want to put in the Q&A what your favorite cookie is, like what cookie you like to make during the holidays, I'd love to see it. I'd love to know what you guys like. Okay, so our last project, our second to last project, might be our last, are if you're taking cookies to a cookie exchange or something from your kitchen and you're taking it to a neighbor or something like that. So I have in my little bin here, I have the plates I got. Pretty inexpensive. So if I were to make up some treats on here and pass them along, that'd be great. Now, somebody asked a question about putting lines in your carrier sheet. The material that you weed off of an iron-on type of material, the material itself does not have any stick to it. When you're working with vinyl, the material does have a stick to it. So this piece, as I peel it off, let me just show you what I'm talking about. As I weed this off, this piece right here, the back of it is sticky. So it's got that's where the adhesive is on the regular vinyl. So your iron-on material, the adhesive doesn't really take effect until it sticks. If you're using our removable or permanent vinyl, that has an adhesive on it already. So when you're weeding a bit, let me pull this here, it might be easier on this one. When you're weeding a big project like this, as you start weeding from the corner and pulling it off and it gets caught on a little indent or something like that, what I like to do, and somebody asked the question about putting lines on your design. Yes, my answer to your question is yes. The lines do make a difference. Now, my lines didn't quite get to the edge. I'm just going to come back here and trim this down a little bit. So my lines are trimmed off. Okay, that's good. And then I'll go over here and do the same thing here. You can't see it until I start weeding it. But what I did was inside each of these lines of text, I added a cut line, so that now when I weed, I can just remove the material one line at a time. And I don't have to worry about starting up here and ending all the way down here. So when I remove a line, the whole line will come off. Get my little weeding tool under there. There we go. So when I take my weeding tool and I have my line, that just all comes off. So each separate line of my design, I can just worry about that one line as I'm going. And then you could also, I didn't do this on this design, but you could put a box around the overall design, and that will help too. But see, so now when I remove when I weed my design, I'm really just don't have to worry about keeping all this part with the stick on it from sticking to other parts up here of my design. I can just weed off that one section as I go. I didn't quite cut all the way to the edge. There we go. So my answer to your question on iron-on material, it doesn't really make that big a difference. If you're doing a big one, it might be easier, like a big iron-on design. But when you're working with vinyl, and your vinyl, as you remove it, might stick to other portions of your design, then yes, those little lines will make a huge difference. And I just add the lines using the score line in Design Space and turn it into a cut line. Turn it from a score line into a cut line. Let's do that. Ooh, shortbread cookies. Oh, you should cut them into different shapes. That's so cool. I can show you how I did this in Design Space, how I added those lines, because it really is just adding a layer in between. This is all one design. And so all I had to do was add a line in between each of the lines of the design. And then now when I weed it, it just keeps it a little bit more easy as I'm going. Because I can tell you, I tried to do this design as one weed and it was a mess. I made a mess of it. So I was like, so that's why I went back and I said, all right, I'm gonna do that. Then once you've weeded the outside of it, you just come back with your little weeding tool and you weed the inside of it. And make sure you don't spill your little pieces on there. Let's get that guy back. Now, this material I used Cricut's permanent vinyl material. And the reason I use permanent is this tray that I'm putting it on is intended to be the giving tray. So what that means is you use this tray or your plate, whatever you're doing, and then you gift it with your gift. So if you were gifting cookies, I would put a selection of cookies on my tray, and then I would be able to give that to somebody and they would keep the tray and use it. I lost a heart. There we go. Put him back on there. Now I use the permanent vinyl instead of a removable vinyl. If I wanted to do like a little morning, let's say I want to do like a little morning plate for a kid or something and have that for them for the different holidays, you could use removable removable vinyl so that at the end of the holiday, you can just peel that vinyl off of the plate and then remake the plate with a different theme. So if you have the same plate and you're like, well, this is our special holiday plate, but it's the same plate for different holidays, you can use removable vinyl and take it off. Now, removable vinyl will not necessarily go through the washing machine. It could come off in the washing machine. If you want to be able to wash your design in the washing machine, first of all, your plate has to be washable, and then you use the permanent vinyl, and that comes right on it out and works. So I use permanent vinyl. If you're using Cricut permanent vinyl, I have Cricut permanent vinyl that I have used on a cup. I used it. It's like one of my favorite cups. I did it probably years ago. I don't even know how many years ago I did it. And it's stayed fine for me. So I'm surprised your permanent vinyl has come off in the wash. Now you do want to make sure when you're selecting your vinyl, if you're using a scrap or something, that it really is permanent. And you can always tell on the back of your material, it will say if it's permanent or removable. So if you've gotten rid of your casing with it, you can always check the back of it. Okay, so I'm putting this down on my table And then I've got my transfer tape started, and I started it at about 1/2 inch up. And I'll just put that 1/2 inch on my, let's see, on the top of my design here. And I'm going to make sure I'm lining it up with the top, and it's going to cover everything. Once I've done that, I'm ready to remove the vinyl backing on the transfer and put the transfer tape fully down on the design. So to do this, I have just that half little bit on the top. I put a ruler down on my design, and as I am going to pull back the transfer tape, I'll slide my ruler down the design. And what this does, it does two things. One is it keeps everything together, and it also smooths it out as I go. So now that that is all smooth, I just can remove any air bubbles on top and make sure that my vinyl is going to transfer onto that transfer tape. So I'll just, you can use a Cricut wedge. I have like a little wedge here you can use to do this. I do like the ruler to go across the whole design though, as I'm transferring it over. It makes it so much smoother. So then now I just turn it over, and at a 45-degree angle, I'm going to remove my backing from my vinyl. And as I'm going, I'm just kind of touching back on the design, and where it's not coming up, I'll fold it over into a crease and then start from that line again. And you want to work at an angle that is working for you. So if you come across a little piece that is being difficult, you can start from a different angle and just work your design around. So again, I'll just do it at 45-degree angles and work my backing off of my vinyl design. And when you have these little pieces like this, you just really want to give yourself time and just be patient with it. You just roll that right off. And then you want to make sure whatever you're putting it on, you've cleaned and it's ready to go for your design. And so almost there. We're getting at the top. There we go. Beautiful. So now that's the plate that keeps on giving. When you set your transfer tape aside, you want to make sure that you are saving the transfer tape backing, because you can put your transfer tape back on there and use your transfer tape multiple times until it has no more stick. So I'm finding the middle of my design here. And I'm going to start at the middle of my plate. Now I'm going to start at the top. Usually I do a taco fold, but I want to avoid any bubbles. So I'm just going to start at the top, and I'm holding up the bottom part here. And I'm going to put my design down. I'm going to start with the top. Get it centered there. Okay, I'm going to put that down. And as we go, I'm just going to work it in as I go, layer by layer. So this way I'm not trying to work with a big, huge piece and maybe has an air bubble in the center. You just can work with it bit by bit and work your way down. And if you're worried about it getting centered onto your plate, put it in it like the first couple of times, do it at an angle and kind of give yourself like, well, I'm just going to go crooked. I intended to do that. And give yourself the ability to go crooked, like especially if it's your first project, I would definitely recommend you go at an angle or something. I always think of crooked as crazy. So you want to go ahead and let yourself go crooked. Now I am removing my transfer tape again at the same way, 45-degree angle, and I'm just kind of walking it off my design. If my vinyl comes up at any point, I'm going to use my wedge and push that back down. But there we go. The plate that keeps on giving. And then I can take my backing for my transfer tape, and I'll put my transfer tape right back on there.
And Kesley, I just want to remind you to show how to put that line between each of the phrase, each line of the phrase.
Let me go do that right now. Do a quick review of our designs home for the holidays. one design and then our second design here. So you've got 2 napkins, and then you have your aprons. So your kid's apron here and your adult apron. I need a bigger workspace for all these goodies. And then our pot holder right there in the center. Okay, so let me switch back over and I'll share my screen here. Oh, I found my Teflon. Okay, let's go here. I'm going to stop sharing. No, I'm going to start sharing. Here we go. Okay, so the question was, how did I put those lines in my design? So let's say we're going to take this. Actually, I'm going to show you the exact one I did. Let me go to my projects. Giving plate is the project I did. So we're going to open that project and I'm going to show you how to customize this. Am I still here?
Yes, you did cut out for a while.
Oh, so I'm going to hit customize and oops. Let's see. Okay, so this, as the design comes on, you'll see that, all right, I'm having trouble with Zoom. Sorry, guys. Let me fix that. I'll share my screen again. Here we go. Okay, sorry, my Zoom cut out on me. All right, so now you can see my screen here. And in between this design, if you look in my layers panel, this is all one, the design itself is all one layer. It's all one design. And I added the lines in the middle so that it would make it easier to weed. To do this, see, I've got these different lines here. Let me hide those lines. I came over to shapes. I selected the scoring shape, and that puts just a little tiny scoring line on your mat up in the corner here. And if from a scoring line, I'm going to change that and make it a basic cut. And then I can make it the height of my project, 7 inches, and you can rotate it 90 degrees. Now I have a thin line that will go right in the middle of each section of the words. So it cuts it, excuse me, it cuts it all out together, but now each section is its own part of the design. And I found the design, if you go into images, if that's not clear, let me know and I will.
I was going to say, you do need to attach it. That's the only step you missed.
You are right. You're absolutely 100% right. You need to attach it. I just wanted to show everybody where the designs are, how many different designs there are for a giving plate. And let me go back to my canvas. Thank you, Anita. I missed that one step. So once you've added all your lines, so I can just take this one line and I can do a copy and paste and bring that down between here. It's just remembering to take it from a score line into a cut line. Go right there. And then if you want to, you grab your design and then you pick up each of your lines in the layers panel. So you want to make sure you have all 3 of your cut lines here. And then you attach it together. So to attach it together, once I have everything selected, I can even just draw across it. I've got everything selected. I'm going to hit attach. Now this means when I send it, it doesn't change the design or anything, but when I send it to my machine, it holds the place of those lines within the design. So you can see there, those lines are within the design. Now, if I forgot to attach, which happens sometimes, we all do that. If I forget to attach and those lines are not part of the design and I send it over, it thinks I want those lines on a separate mat. So it puts those lines right on my gray mat here, not where I wanted them at all. Does not help me in my design. So then you just go, oops, cancel, come back, select everything, and attach it together. Now you could also weld it together if you wanted to at this stage, but that makes it a permanent layer. Like you can't undo that weld feature. So attach just holds things together. Think of it like a staple. It holds things together on your canvas. And I did want to show you, I know I went in and showed you the images for the giving plate, but the other image that I had, Baking Spirits Bright, I want to show you that one too, because there's so many fun, cute sayings like that. So you have a lot of different choices in Design Space that you can come in and choose. Any of these would be cute on an apron. This design here by Wispy Willows is the same person who did the cookie baking crew. So if you like one design, if you click on that designer's name, you can go in and see some of their other designs that they have available that either may coordinate, or if you like, if you tend to like one designer, you might like other items they've designed. So I like to go back and check those out. And then if there's somebody that you really like, and you're like, oh, I like all her designs, or I like her projects, you can give that person a follow and follow on their creations. So when they do something, they can, you'll get an alert that they've shared something. So with Cricut Access, there are over 200,000 designs in Design Space, Kelly, that you can use, and they're included in your Cricut Access plan. There are some licensed designs like Star Wars or Disney designs that are licensed, and you do pay for those. So those are the only ones you'd have to pay for. If you didn't have Cricut Access, you could just go do, upload designs. You could create your own designs using shapes, and you can also go in and buy a la carte. So if you're like, oh, I really like that baking crew design, and that's 99 cents, I'm just going to buy that design for my project. And then you have that design in your design library, and you can use it as many times as you need to. So I hope that answers that question. Well, guys, we are at the end of our class. I so appreciate you joining me. I've got shortbread cookies on my mind now, so I'm gonna have to go do some baking. Have a great holiday season. Enjoy your gifts from the kitchen and giving gifts from the kitchen. Thanks so much. Thanks, Felicia and Anita, for being with us.